I felt like we were not in a great place, and here they've moved everything in a good direction.
Better direction, but I still like. Basically, they're gonna have to retcon themselves out of a massive hole with this, because I think they've kind of shit the bed in so many ways, but also because it kind of it interacts with the metaphysics of the Shadowlands, and they've kind of just brushed over life, death, rebirth, whatever, it's fine. And some of it's like my kind of definitely nitpicking, because I think that they just didn't show any respect to this plotline whatsoever. And I also still have my hang-ups about the fact that they tried to already retcon why Elune stopped Tyrande and got it wrong in terms of how the timing went and character knowledge went. But
it's like this whole thing has been such a waste of time, I think. Like the whole Night Warrior arc, it was just so that she could learn a lesson that she already learned sort of from Varian.
It was honestly...
just in a cosmic way, but we didn't need it to be in a cosmic way. And
yeah.
I mean, they've made her the main character. It's like consistently, where's Malfurion? He used to be really cool.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like the Night Elves have just... it really feels like they've contracted in what they are to just Tyrande's story.
Yeah, and they're like...
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the story of a people as much. And I think when you're dealing with the trauma of a population, the shared trauma of a population, you need to do that at a population level, not just the level of the Night Warrior. You know?
Yeah, it's obviously the intent was, this
like
is
fucking Space Cop is cooler than the Night Warrior.
Yeah, like this is the embodiment of, all of the pain and the anguish they suffer and stuff, but it just kind of fell completely and utterly flat.
Yeah, they tried
Especially when it was, here's she's angry and then she's not angry because why did Elune give her that in the first place? Who is Elune? Why is she talking now in the Shadowlands instead of any other time? What's going on? And the part that really... The reason I'm really pissed off about this specifically, though, is because I've been playing a Night Elf in TBC. And I've done the intro. The Teldrassil questing.
Yeah.
Over down to Darkshore, through Ashenvale. I've done all of that. I even did the South of Elune stuff in Ashenvale. Yeah.
I just said, someone said Night Warrior reminds him of the Night Man.
Yeah, so that's... it's just...
Who's Danny DeVito?
I don't know. Oh, I don't want to think about it.
And who is the boy?
I don't know.
It's Malfurion.
Yeah, for sure.
Who's Malfurion's pimp?
Yeah, it's there's so much about the Night Elves, and going and doing the Scythe of Elune quest, because me and Jared did this. We actually stumbled upon that together from Forest Song up into the just south of Felwood, and then the fact that it sends you across the world and like introduces you to the Worgen and the Scythe of Elune in this really like mysterious way, sends you across the world looking for this like one Night Elf priestess, and that interacting with the knowledge I have about the Worgen, because I know what happened, I know about the Scythe of Elune, I kind of look at it from that perspective. It's all really cool. Like the Night Elves are these people who are really like willing, they pray to Elune, they're willing to go so far to push back the demons because they really care about nature, and none of that is none of that is there ever. It's all just, it's Tyrande, she's angry, she's a woman who's lost control of her emotions. Again,
that's all we know how to do with these characters.
Yeah, it's like...
It's weird that for a company that is so...
Yeah.
Or trying to be so aware of how they come off, that they keep on doing the trope.
Yep. I mean, that's the...
Weird.
Jaina, Tyrande, Lance, they're all the same.
Yeah. It's that weird thing, like, I don't mean this in a way where it's like, now, okay, right, you can never kill... you can never kill a gay character because it's that trope. You can never make a female character get really angry. Like, we're not saying, we're not trying to like take away, their freedom to do whatever they want with their story, because it'd be pretty weird and limiting to like put those rules on, and that is also, and I don't know, ist/ism. But yeah, it's like when it's like, okay, right, so Sylvanas keeps on just literally getting triggered by words that go back to her childhood, then she makes a snap emotional decision, and here we go again. But I guess you try to later make it seem more planned, and then Jaina does the exact same thing, and then this character does the same thing, and it's like, they can do something else.
Yeah.
You could, look how cool Tyrande is. You could have taken her in more interesting directions than just, there you go, Big Tyrande's lost her marbles again.
Yeah, it's also the fact that she does it, and like, at no point in this massive big thing is ever Malfurion spoken to or about or anything. And they're really close. They've been together since they dealt with the War of the Ancients together. And it's just like, yeah, Malfurion, you're the big cool dude killing everyone in second notice. Fuck you, go away. It's not your time. It's like, that's the kind of thing where have you seen Tyranda's back muscles? Holy, that's a good thing.
Very, quality back muscles.
Yeah, that's an exceptional thing, but doesn't take away from storytelling. So I'm trying to think of how to put this really succinctly, right? Whenever they take characters kind of out of their culture and out of their, like, the story that they've always been in, and then they put them into new places, like they kind of did big time this expansion, they clearly do not have the resources to actually do everything they need to with these characters.
Yeah.
It's like they managed to get it in the end with Sylvanas by massively backfilling with a book. They couldn't even get the game to have all the stuff and she was the main character of the expansion, essentially. And they couldn't
When you put it that way, man.
I mean, she was,
yeah,
right?
she was, yeah.
She was the instigator of it. She was, like, most of the resolution to it. It was the Sylvanas and Anduin expansion. And they didn't, deal with everything Anduin was. They got a little bit of it. Felt a little bit construed because there's so little of Anduin's, like, further past that wasn't really addressed. It's kind of like Anduin sort of, he's a new character in a way now, in a wee bit, since Legion. But they couldn't do that. They couldn't deal with everything Sylvanas. They couldn't lean into her family and her history and stuff like that. Anduin ended up being, here's Sarfang and things. So imagine if you didn't play BFA, you'd be well confused because there was no way of, like, leaning back into that. But Tyrande is almost fish out of water in a sense, where they go, okay, Tyrande, we'll bring you in because there's some Night Elf elements of the story. But we clearly do not actually have the ability to deal with everything Tyrande is as a character. Yeah. We have to isolate certain elements because that's all we have time for, because we can only tell story through these big things because we're busy with all our quests setting up this new place. And that's a case where if we didn't go to the Shadowlands, if this was Tyrande chases Sylvanas through the forest, then we wouldn't have to do all the setup. Obviously, it would be a shit expansion if it's just we're in Darkshore the whole time. But it would be that case of they would have the ability to go, okay, well, we don't have to spend 30,000 quests explaining who these fucking fairies are or what these Carrion are or what this Maldraxxus thing is. They would be able to just go, here's Tyrande, loads of Tyrande stuff, loads of Sylvanas stuff. Job done.
The thing is, they could have done it. Like, we could have, like, my time in Ardenweald, instead of squishing Gorms and dealing with the Drost who are there, I guess, why is the A-plot of it not a bit more like a Val'Sharah? People like Val'Sharah, and that way it would actually be here. Because that's it. Like, they didn't have the breadth or depth of narrative content to sell any of what they wanted to sell. So as Frank and Barry said earlier, sounds great in the writer's room.
Exactly, yeah.
But you're making a game, and sometimes it seems like the writer's room doesn't translate to the game that well. And maybe when we see all these quest designers and, producers and people being hired by the company, it's them hopefully realizing they really they need to get better at translating their goals and their ambitions into the in-game content. Why did Muzala feel like an afterthought?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like him and Bob Samedi could have, that's it. They tried to do so many things that they ended up doing nothing. So it's like, if you were going to have Tyrande and Sylvanas like be the main thing of Ardenweald, and I think you needed that for their arc to work, in the same way that Devos and Uther probably should have been the primary story of Bastion.
Yeah.
So that people would have actually had that story land. What you would need to do then is you need to sacrifice your A-plot world building and move that into the side quests, which in fairness, FF14 actually does that.
Yep.
You would have needed to have done that. And then the trust. You have to make the hard call of they're not here anymore. They're for later.
Kick that can down the road, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to really do it.
Yeah, and that's a thing where, because to kind of further what I was talking about with the Night Elves, the thing that's really annoyed me about, and it was the same in BFA, right? They did this in BFA. They sort of did it in Legion, but it was tied enough to what we'd already experienced that we felt it okay. But it's this kind of, we're going somewhere new. Which means we don't get to do anything important with stuff we care about.
Yeah.
In the sense of, hey, we're in BFA. It's about the Kultirans and the Zandalari. And that was just a whole load of stuff that didn't really feel like... We didn't get any development of what we know or what we like. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot, because I'll talk about something a
Oh,
little bit later with
shit.
novelty. But, it's like, when's the last time anyone talked about the Guardian of Tirisfal? This kind of, well, whatever. When's the last time anything, in basically anything on Azeroth, and this is where the Dragonflight, we're back to Azeroth, is not going to work for me in the way that it ideally would. And I guess I'm kind of advocating for old world revamps in a way here. But I just mean deal with cultural elements we know. Take cultural elements and plot lines and stuff we know, and then move it on the next bit, as opposed to, hey, what's happened with the Glenans? What's happened with the Worgen? What's happened with, the Night Elves? What's happened with, how are the Darkspear trolls finding the Horde these days? How are the Tauren dealing with, the whole Azerite thing and the earth bleeding? Where's all of that stuff?
They should really care about that.
Yeah, but they're just going, new expansion, new thing.
Well, that's the hard problem for Blizzard, and you've really made me realize something. The Burning Crusade was Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
Wrath of the Lich King was Warcraft 3. And in each case, we went to somewhere that was like new, different, and familiar at the same time. And then Cataclysm was also another dose of that. Mists of Pandaria is our first wholly new expansion.
Yeah.
And then from MOP, we go into WoD, which like we kind of know, and that's familiar.
It was Orcs familiar enough, yeah.
And then Legion, there's like a bit more familiarity. And then it's kind of weird because the Zandalari and the Kultirans were in the game's lore so little, and there were so many new concepts that really felt like odd and different. And then Shadowlands was completely disconnected. So it's kind of like over time we kind of like drifted. Oh, I really like MOP as well.
Oh yeah, MOP was good because the thing, well, it didn't super linger on this, but my memory of it largely, especially like I've replayed it quite a bit. A lot of it was, hey, here's how these factions impact this new thing. I think the
so
new
we
thing
carry
is,
what we know with us.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck, one of my favorite quest lines in the whole game is 5.1. Like when you're there as an Alliance character and the Blood Elves are like about to join the Alliance, and then Jaina throws going to the point we talked about earlier. No, and Jaina like throws the complete,
tantrum.
Crazy situation, like just killing people in the street. Jaina got really, really hardcore.
Real gnarly.
Like she actually murdering people in the street for their political affiliation in a neutral town.
Yeah, I mean, Thrall stopped her from drowning Orgrimmar. That's pretty big.
So that's quite something.
Yeah.
Like that was some of the best, like, what a great set of quests. It actually felt, and that's why we liked it so much, I think. It actually felt like, oh, holy shit, Azeroth stuff. Oh, yeah, no, she should have. It's pointing fun. Yeah, like that's when WoW like had a little bit of a political thriller sort of bit to it. Like, MOP felt so much more faction war than BFA did because of that. Because
there was an actual faction war that wasn't just advertised, and then we spent all our time helping two new people who...
Yeah, to secure a navy. To secure a navy for a war that we never see on screen, only for that navy to be destroyed by a fish lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of this just comes down to the zoomed out view. What are we trying to deliver, and does our content live up to that? And, wow.
Yeah, and I think advocating, almost certainly in my case, it's the things that we know, but develop them further. And I know, like, especially to a team that's evolved over time, that can't be satisfying. I understand why they want to do Shadowlands. I understand why they want to do Dragonflight in terms of, hey, here's the 10,000 year gap where you don't really know what happened in Azeroth's history. We're going to fill that up with stuff. But if that's full of new elements, if that's full of the Jaredine, if that's full of, like, a bunch of Neltharion experiments that are like the Drakthir and the kind of, there's a little bit of Tang in there. But if we don't get to see, hey, here's a little bit of what the Night Elves are up to, because obviously I'm basically just
we very much assume that will happen.
Yeah, that's the thing where that's kind of my fear, right? Where if they don't kind of go, okay, here's a little bit of flavor that you get to experience with, say, the Vrykul landing, and like how the dragons watched the Vrykul land, because obviously the Proto-Drakes and the Vrykul were pretty close. So what have dragons done with humans? How did they influence that? Did they watch that happen? You know, how much of that do we get to experience and understand and fill? As not just like fill in the dots with a bullet point, but like here's interesting stories of like how the humans had to fight there. Because obviously the whole human founding stuff is actually pretty cool. And we
Yeah.
know a little bit of that. But like, where's more of that flavor there? More of that, like, I guess, context for the cultures and the races and the people are there. Especially when you, again, Night Elves, they were there the whole time. What were they doing? Outside of crazy shit and waiting for, and sleeping, I guess. But yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, well, for the Toronto cinematic.
Bit of a...
No, a good one, though, a quality one. I mean, is that not the job of this, to sort of spark the real shit? Right, so you've probably seen it. The TLDR, basically, is there's this, like, wild seed. The souls of the Night Elves who died at Teldrassil and were then recovered from Torghast. They are basically given the option, the Winter Queen says, hey, hang out here in Ardenweald. Like, an eternal good afterlife. You can have that. But they decide, no, we want to go and we want to be a part of this new wild seed so that we can, be a part of our people's future. Yeah. And this seed is then given to Tyrande. And essentially that means true hope that there could be something good for the Night Elves. Now, some people have said, wait, do you mean those souls are just fertilizer? What I'd say there is that this is a seed that's supposed to represent the cycle of life and death that is deeply connected to Ardenweald and the Emerald Dream. My expectation here, because I think Blizzard does need to make this feel, call me a Care Bear, whatever, Blizzard needs to get away from the weird fucking edginess of it's like the weird edginess of the world that circulates around like 3 or 4 core characters. They need to get away from that. And I would very much assume then those people are dead, yeah, but they'll probably be wisps. Something like that when they come through the other side. Because that's straight into the sort of Night Elf, rituals and beliefs that we've already known.
Yeah.
That's the way they have to do it. They can't be deleted. They have to be wisps in the forest.
And that's where I very much get annoyed, but it's mostly residual and annoyance at the fact that they opened the metaphysical can of worms and are just like, yeah, they go there and they live forever, or they turn into anima, which is kind of the end of their existence. And you're like, okay, that's fairly okay. And like, even wisps, they're not super sentient. They're kind of eternal caretakers. And I think that's okay, but it's just the kind of mysticism of it is kind of dead. The spirituality of it's dead because it's now part of this machine. And I feel like I'm probably not going to be satisfied no matter what they do, because I've not been satisfied with it so far. I almost want them to just grovel and say, yeah, here's like 6 paragraphs of how anima and wisps actually completely make sense. We've retconned half of Shadowlands. I'm sorry. And that's unreasonable. Like, but
yeah, I would want that. No, I think you do. When you over-explain, like, that's the fastest way to break a fantasy universe. And trying to over-explain the mechanics of death, like, that seems like the fastest way to make the cultures and the flavor of all of the, like, factions and races you've created. It seems like the fastest way to destroy that.
Yeah.
So it was a humongous mistake, yes.
Yeah.
Now, though, it's like we can't put it back in the box. So it seems like what they're trying to do, and really they're fundamentally undoing 2 things here, because they basically undo the whole, they undo the destruction of the Undercity.
Yeah.
Ish. We're getting there. Here, it's a slower storyline because this will factor into Dragonflight, where the Undercity storyline had to happen now. Yeah. But here they're going to undo Teldrassil in some way. Now, they're not going to undo it literally, and they're not going to undo the frustration we've all had and everything that's followed from that, but at least we're going to get back to a position where there's the Night Elves, they have their home. Oh, phew. And that's kind of like the best that they can do without just saying, hello, we have, we've rewound. We've undid it, which they realistically can't do.
Yeah, they're not rewinding anything. They're kind of going, they're cleaning up.
Yeah.
They're going, whoops, that's a big pile of ash. We need to sweep that away and put something there, in a sense. But, yeah, it's that awkward thing where I don't know what I want, to be honest. I think what I actually want is a book that's like Sylvanas, but about the Night Elves, but also in-game as content, which is, to be quite frank, completely ridiculous and entirely unrealistic. But that's the kind of the love I want them to show to this thing. And I will say specifically because I have been a big fan of the Night Elves for so long.
Yeah. Yeah, if you like the Night Elves in Warcraft 3, like a lot of things have changed.
Yeah, far too much. But yeah.